Y nosotros continuamos avanzando. Este Business Connection es jueves 2 de febrero, es la mañana del Banco Central Europeo, es la mañana del Banco de Inglaterra y de la resaca de Jerome Powell y de la Reserva Federal. Para seguir hablando de lo que ha dado de sí ese eco, esas palabras de Jerome Powell y lo que está por venir, recibimos ya a Massimiliano Bondurri, fundador y CEO de SGMC Capital. Massimiliano, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yesterday we heard the Federal Reserve's rate decision. It raises rates by 0.25% and announced that disinflation has begun. What are the highlights of Powell's speech?
Well, let's say that there were, first of all, not many surprises. So he mentioned the same things, that the 0.25 increase was expected. They said that there's going to be ongoing increases in the future, but of course they remain data dependent, depending on the inflation data and especially depending on the employment data. They're going to be looking very carefully at that. And if there is one main takeaway to be had with respect to the meeting, is that yesterday the Fed had the opportunity to sound a lot more hawkish than it had done in the past, because of course equity markets had rallied into the meeting, and the fixed income market with respect to the rates market was actually not really believing the Fed, because they're pricing in quite a few cuts already before the end of the year. Therefore, the Fed had that opportunity, but they did not use it. So overall, it sounded a little bit more dovish as with respect to what it could have been, and of course that has led to the very big reaction in the markets that we have seen, with equity higher, dollar lower, and overall interest rates moving lower.
Yesterday was Federal Reserve. Today is the ECB's turn. 50 basis point hike is expected. Beyond that move, we will be watching for where the terminal rate will be. What are you expecting from?
Well, we do expect a 0.5 increase here as well. The ECB probably needs to remain a little bit more hawkish because, of course, a little bit more behind with respect to where the Fed is. The Fed has already hiked a lot last year. The ECB did not manage to do that, both because of a little bit of a different, let's say, overall environment in Europe, where growth is still lower with respect to the US, and but inflation numbers remain high. Therefore, what it means that ECB needs to remain hawkish, needs to continue telling markets the need to raise rates in order to bring inflation down. But of course, they're going to be mindful again of the overall growth and employment picture of the European Union. Therefore, we do expect continuing increases in the rates. But again, probably we're going to be done by the first half to latest second half of this year.
Macro outlook doesn't arrive until March from the ECB. What will be the keys in the speech, the words of Lagarde for today?
Well, again, there's going to be a lot of reference with respect to the overall growth that they expect in the economy, and a lot of reference with respect to the inflation. They're going to be mentioning, very similar to probably what the Fed has done, that inflation is starting to come down, but it's still at levels which is way above where they're comfortable at. So they need inflation to move lower. In order to do that, they need to restrain the demand and the consumption that has really kept inflation so high. So on one side, also, they're going to be helped with respect to the easing supply chain issues thanks to China's reopening. But Lagarde, in terms of what they will mention, is again focus on growth, focus on the employment picture, on the inflation numbers, and really give a guidance forward that they're ready to fight inflation, hopefully without sacrificing employment too much.
Apart from ECB, the Bank of England is expected to approve the same 50 basis point rate hike, and the British economy is expected to fall into recession this year. What is your point of view in regarding to Bank of England and his message?
Well, the UK is in a trickier position, because if you look at the overall growth numbers and the big consequences that we've had post-Brexit and the big issues that they face from a political environment, they're really in a fragile state. That being said, the Bank of England cannot lose time, because from an inflation perspective, the numbers remain very dire. Inflation is too high, but they're already at a much lower base with respect to growth. So as you said, they are expecting negative growth. This being said, it's not the fault, if you want, of the Bank of England. It's probably the consequence of a number of decisions which probably could have been taken in a better way over the last few years. But Bank of England needs to continue raising rates. They need to raise by 0.5% today, and they will need to again continue telling markets that they're ready to do more. Of course, the UK is a much more fragile environment, as I've just mentioned. Therefore, from a global investor's perspective, probably UK assets is not the best place to be at the moment.
Thank you, Massimiliano, for joining us on TV en Negocios Televisión. Thank you. Good business.
Thanks. Good day to you.
Y nosotros, por supuesto,